The illusion of 2D in God of War has been a subject on my mind for a while now. The title might seem confusing, but the subject will make sense in just a minute. Now, we all know God of War is a fully 3-dimensional action hack-and-slash franchise, while 2D fighters are mainly what you see on screen. Totally different, I know, I'll get to that in a second. God of War, ever since the beginning when it first started, was very influential. The grab system, for example, got borrowed by some other games, mainly DMC4. The QTEs made a huge impact as well. So on. Point is, it is a very influential game and it shows, even this many years after its release. Now, the great thing about God of War is that it also took many amazing aspects from many amazing games and made it into one. As is the case with game development, you get influenced by what you like in other games. In today's video, I'm not gonna go over everything that got borrowed from other games and put into God of War. However, I will be tackling the subject of 2D in God of War. God of War, ever since it started, has some really neat sections that give the illusion of a 2D side-scroller fighter. It is essentially fighting in an arena with the camera on the side of the arena, and the whole encounter hall is semi-tight. Now, the controls are still the usual 3D controls of the game, nothing changed there. We do have segments that are fully 2D like the rope combat segments, but I'm not here to talk about these. These do drastically change the moment-to-moment combat, like it feels like you're playing a whole different game when you're going through the rope combat. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to tackle the subtle, actual in-game encounters that either give the illusion of 2D or flat out go full-on 2D mode on you. But let's not jump ahead. Zesty, are you saying God of War has 2D segments other than the Zeus fight in God of War 3? Well, let's go through them and have some examples and talk about them, shall we? So we start with God of War 1. I ask you, viewer, does this angle feel familiar? Compare this for a second with what you usually think of when you think about God of War encounters. Is this what you first think about when you think God of War encounters? The first thing that comes to mind is an open space, enemies surrounding you, making you feel trapped, you have to be careful of your surroundings, and so on. This encounter right here flips the script entirely and gives you a fight with a narrow path in a 2D style. As I said earlier, the game is not totally 2D, even the controls are still the same. Hell, even the fight is still actually 3D with enemies being at your 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock at times. But the illusion and philosophy of the fight is 2D. The feel, the positioning, the approach, all 2D. Now, this is nowhere close to be the only one in God of War 1, let alone the entire franchise. I will tackle them all, even the pseudo 2D ones, like this one here when we first enter the temple. This one strays far from the last one. The encounter is wider than the last one we talked about in Athens. I call this a pseudo 2D fight because I'm a bit mixed on this one. The fight is mainly left and right, but the close camera makes things go in a different way most of the time. Again, another situation of enemies being at your 12 o'clock from time to time. But still, this is not ignoring the fact that this is mostly a horizontal encounter with attacks coming from either the right or the left, or you attack them from the right or the left. So what do we do now? We move on to another 2D feeling encounter. This one being in the Challenge of Atlas, this one being the most 2D fight in the entire game. Look at it, it doesn't even need to be explained. This is all a part of this segment and this temple. The game is trying to be 2D in some spots to help with easing the player into using the Blade of Artemis. Why do I say that? Because minutes after, we have another encounter that goes for the 2D illusion. The fight is 90% looming with the 2D approach, attacking or getting attacked from either the left or right. With the right approach, you use this to your advantage and score a bunch of lovely full collisions that destroy the enemies in your way. This is a very lovely case of the 2D illusion. I adore this encounter since it works so well with the game's combat mechanics. Throwing an enemy to other enemies to destroy them, whether by grabs or knockback attacks. Watch me dominate this encounter without any upgrades to my health or weapons. Now here's the thing with the 2D illusion in God of War 1. It keeps this up for some time, but never truly embracing it to the fullest. It's like the game shies away halfway through the encounter being 2D. You got this short encounter right here when fighting harpies. You got this short encounter here in the Challenge of Hades, all feeding into the same philosophy, the illusion of 2D. The game never truly embraces it and feeds into it completely. But what happens when you actually go full on 2D? God of War 2 happens, and just, well, I mean, look at this. Just look at this right here. See, 2D side-scrollers have something very important and lovely about them. Other than the fighting that goes on, the fight choreography is very beautiful. You usually get some of the best backgrounds in 2D games. And I'm talking while fighting, you get some of the best looking backgrounds. God of War 1's approach to a 2D fight was mostly the philosophy of attacking or receiving attacks from the left or right. It never fed fully to the 2D philosophy, both in actually committing to a full 2D fight and the aspect of having a baller background while fighting. Enter God of War 2. Two-dimensional fight with harpies with a giant asshole breathing you to death in this awesome mythology setting of Typhon. 2D fight against the last Spartan with only silhouettes of the two warriors showing, coupled with the most beautiful background scenery, that being the spire in the background. Battle on a sword that saved your life in the past while a crazy bitch witch is trying to kill you and you got all these sentries around you that need killing. A whole entire gauntlet, arguably the best encounter in all of God of War, designed so well with so many diverse enemies in the Loom Chamber. It never ends. God of War 2 embraces the 2D-ness to the fullest. The two-dimensionalness to the fullest. The Typhon encounter in Mount Etna is a beautiful example. You're fighting off harpies while Typhon is in the background being a stage hazard like my grandma down the stairs. This fight is even more 2D than God of War 1's first 2D fight. The fight is very narrow and there's truthfully only left and right to go on about this battle. The only thing vertically attacking is Typhon. Beautiful background Typhon, that is. Just lovely. The next case of the 2D illusion is literally a fight that is in 2D. Like full on. Right before the Kraken, you fight this shadowy figure. You're both silhouettes fighting with an awesome background in 2D. This is what I meant when I said God of War 2 does not shy away from embracing the 2D illusion. This fight is practically full on 2D. The controls are still the moment-to-moment combat controls, but it is a full on 2D fight. This fight also beautifully shows the part of God of War 2's philosophy. Everyone is ambitious and is aiming to change their fate. And the spire is an amazing reminder in the background. This happens throughout the game. It happens with Perseus, the spire is in the background as you fight him. It happens with Icarus, the spire is literally ahead of you. It happens here too, as the two are both trying to change their fate. The game putting it as the background of a 2D fight is the most lovely touch ever. Thank you very much whoever did this. Again, this is what I meant with God of War 2 fully embracing the 2D-ness of everything. It kind of went the full mile with this one right here. For the first time ever, a full-on 2D fight in God of War. But that's still not it in God of War 2. The next case of 2D illusion is in the Loom Chamber. I've spoken in detail about why this is the best encounter of all time before. And one of the many reasons was that the camera is in 2D style. 90% of the time, this fight feels horizontal. It is a wide arena. It can even be compared to the Crusher Room in God of War 1, but there's just something else about it. Something that makes this fight more 2D than the Crusher Room in God of War 1. I guess it might be just the enemies and how they attack in God of War 2. Both this and God of War 1's encounter are pseudo 2D, like you could say 2.5D if you will. But the point still stands, 90% of this fight is horizontal. Attacks are mostly from the right or left of the screen. It's even best to position yourself there too. This stays all the way until the last room of the encounter. One of the many reasons why this is one of, if not the best encounter of all time. It's just so iconic for many reasons, and this is just one of them. The fight gives the illusion of a 2D fight. Now I'm sure you noticed me skipping over the Sisters of Fate Atropos fight. That's because again, it's a pseudo 2D fight. Same case as Typhon, but it leans a little more to the pseudo territory than Typhon. Typhon is basically pretty much all 2D. I guess I should just say this is more so leaning towards the Loom Chamber from God of War 2 or the Crusher Room from God of War 1. But it still counts in my book. And now, what happens when you try out the 2D and notice that nobody paid much crazy attention to it? No one also complained about it when it was prevalent in both two games. What happens when you have a beautiful chamber and a baller boss fight together? That's right, you take the chamber and make it into the whole background of the fight, and you take the boss, which is Zeus, into the fight with a full-on 2D camera, approach, and all that crazy jazz. This is where God of War 3 comes in and perfects the 2D illusion in giving you a full-on spectacular brawl against the King of the Gods in full two-dimensional glory. Beautiful background, which is the magnificent Chamber of the Flame, awesome boss mechanics against Zeus, attacks literally definitely made for a 2D fight. Awesome QTE minigames that complement the 2D fight. I know I'm jumping way too much ahead in here. There are other God of War 3 2D illusion cases, but I had to jump to the best one instantly. This will forever be my favorite 2D illusion in God of War. It is just that good. The 2D illusion started with the devs never truly embracing it, but adding it nonetheless. Beautiful job they did with God of War 1's 2D illusion. Comes God of War 2 and they take it a little further, adding awesome background and making the path more narrow and more 2D. In comes the third game, showing the full glory of the 2D illusion in God of War. Truly wonderful stuff. Now, there are other 2D illusions in God of War 3, but I did talk about all my points on those pseudo 2D segments in God of War 2 section of this video. Main one I want to point out is this one right here. This segment near the heart of Gaia is a really nice one, as it is also a tutorial for the amazing battering ram move. Beautiful use of the 2D illusion, mixing it with a move tutorial. Really nice. The point of this video is to show appreciation to this whole thing. I love how there are game twisters like these that happen in God of War. I just felt like talking about this one right here that keeps the same moment-to-moment combat controls, but just takes a little nice twist on the camera position in the encounter, changing the whole dynamic of the encounter very smoothly. This is where we reach the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It has been your Extreme Gamer Zesty. Peace!